We are at the Players this week. TPC Sawgrass. Great venue. Um, Ball striking will be at a premium. I want guys that will not put up the big number, which you can here. I want guys that I think can keep a level head through 4 rounds. Um, I'll talk about some of those guys that I don't like. If you already looked at the red names on my players, you'll see a few that are hot headed, and I don't like this week for that reason. Um, Roster construction this week, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And other people will get more into the strategy of, you know, playing or, leaving a lot of money on the table depending on what contest you're in. Personally, I'm not playing in too many. I really don't worry about that too much. I just want to build the best lineup I can. You know, maybe one day it'll bite me, but in the meantime, I'm trying to build the best lineups possible, taking into account ownership and how I think guys will do each week. I think I have an idea of where the chalk will be this week, but it's one of those weeks where the pricing is soft, but it has to be soft because the top 50 players in the world are in this field. So, what do you want to do about the pricing? My take on the pricing is that you could argue that guys like Hideki and Adam Scott should be priced where maybe Spieth and, maybe Webb up there. Maybe you flip flop a few guys here and there, just to kind of more normalize it. Like if Spieth was 8,300 and Hideki was 8,900, my stances on them wouldn't differ at all, really. Maybe I'd have a little less Hideki and maybe a little more Scott if he, stayed the same price. But, for the most part, I'm looking for guys that are just in good form. Form is going to be important coming into this tournament. Guys that are gaining a bunch of strokes on approach and ball striking in general. I do really like guys that have done it here before. Guys that have been pretty consistent at this course. There's a lot of guys with just terrible course history this week. And I think a lot of that is the nature of the course where things can kind of go downhill for players here. And, it's not often that, you see a tournament where players play every year from the top range and don't have such good results. So let's just get into it here. I want to try to keep this short. Starting at the top, DJ. That's the other thing too this week. Like, I think you can take. I don't think you need to play any of these top guys. It's just that they're so easy to play that, like, you theoretically could leave, $1,000 on the table and just start with Xander instead of one of these guys. Like, I don't think that that's a crazy move because Xander probably, he's in as good a form as pretty much anyone, in this range except for DJ, Rory, JT, with the results that he's getting. So, we'll talk about Xander then, but, DJ up the top, hasn't only one top 15 here ever. That's got to be a little concerning. I think this course just kind of demands more finesse than DJ has. And that sounds strange to say because he's such a great player, but I do think his struggles here have been in part due to that. He's a fine play, but and I'll say this about all of these top guys from Brooks up to DJ. I have them all in bold because I think any of them could win pretty much any given week. And it's really hard to just pin them down. But yeah, DJ's coming off of a win. He has 2 wins in his last 4 starts, so I mean that's a strong form. But the history isn't quite there, so I'll probably have some. But so right now, where am I at on DJ? I think I'm at like 15%, so that's pretty reasonable. JT, JT is a third place here, which is nice. Also has a miscut here, which is not surprising. Just kind of how things go with him sometimes. But he's been great all season, but his approach numbers are a little lacking. Most recently, long term, they're still best in the field, but recently they've been a little lower. So, I mean, I'll have a bunch right now. I would think I'm at like 20%. So that's pretty fair. Like my approach this week is kind of to figure out, 5 lower range guys that I like, and then see what fits up top. And that's what I'm playing. So JT fits about 20% of my lineups. DJ fits about 15. And I'll probably build more this week just to get some of these lower end guys a little more exposure as I go. But yeah, so right now, Rory's one of my higher owned in this top range. Rory and Tiger are both about 33% owned for me. So I like Rory's history here. A lot of strong finishes. He has 4 results that are equal or better than DJ. Over the same period of time. And he's arguably in just as good of form. I mean, wins obviously mean everything, but Rory's been, I would say, more consistent in terms of getting top results. Just a 16th and a 45th for DJ. It's not going to do it this week, really. Not if Rory keeps doing what Rory's been doing. And the fact that Rory's done it here a bunch is great. Rory also last year, I mean, he wasn't in great form, I don't think, around the time of this tournament. Yeah, because this tournament was at a different time last year. I forget exactly what it was, because the whole narrative around Rory at this time last year was that he just didn't close the Masters, and that isn't great. But yeah, I'll have a whole bunch of Rory this week. I mean, you just look at how good he's been, and I think just like with JT and DJ, when you're really on, these guys are hard to beat, and Rory's been pretty on for 5 consecutive weeks. I think he's about to break through, and it could be a letdown spot, but I'm all over Rory this week. And you're getting a pretty sizable discount on the co-favorite. Tiger, I have a lot of this week. I think he's honestly just been biding his time for this tournament. I don't know why. Like, he's not going to waste his time with the Honda. I just don't think he had any motivation to play that tournament. The Arnold Palmer, I think he wanted to take another week to get ready for the Players, and that's just kind of how the schedule went for him. So the neck's not a concern for me. I think he'll be just fine here. 11th year last year, that's super to see, because Tiger last year was a question mark for a lot of the year. And his approach numbers are off the charts right now, and I just really like what I've seen out of him recently, improving every start too. So I think he's got this one, heavily on his mind, and a super focused, super motivated Tiger is a very dangerous Tiger. So I definitely think that Tiger's a strong play. I'm not sure where people will be on him, but I don't really care. I will own him because I think he's a good play. Justin Rose, I might be a little overweight on Justin Rose right now, because right now I'm at, or over what I want to be at. I'm at 10% right now, and I think I actually want less now that I just look at it more. He's just been very up and down this year, and I can't afford a down week with these, with all these other talented plays around him. So, the fact that he hasn't really popped here since 2014 is a little worrisome, and he, besides that, has been total shit here. So, just going to avoid Justin Rose, I think, for the most part. I'll decrease my exposure accordingly. Brooks, I'm at 10% on Brooks too. I think I might change that up a little bit and try to get more uh, Tiger and Rory. Um, and then Brooks is fine this week. He's so hard to pin down. He's another one of these guys. He can just win any given week, and then some weeks he just sucks, and that's how it goes with him. That's why I just tend not to play him much. I'm never really like confident in Brooks being the guy, especially not when he's priced like this. If he's priced in the 9Ks, like I'll be all over him, but at at 10 flat, I think you can just spend up for Tiger or Rory this week and feel better about it. Ricky, I'm going to be fading Ricky this week. Ricky's kind of not. I don't think Ricky's been getting it done with his approach game. So I'll be off. I mean, besides a win in a second here, he's been pretty awful. So I'm going to avoid Ricky. John Rahm is a guy that I think can just go on tilt at any time. On a course like this that's so demanding, I don't like that. So I'm going to be avoiding Rahm. Kind of the same deal with Bryson. I mean, Bryson's an interesting case, but he hasn't quite shown up for 2 weeks in a row, so I'm going to be avoiding Bryson. Jason Day, I had $20 in Jason Day last week. I'm not too mad about it. Whatever. I still ended up profiting around 100 for the week, so that's fine. And of course, if Day finishes, maybe I come out the same because some GPPs of mine might be beaten by others, and then my cash game probably hits. All I needed was Day to play like 2 more holes in my like secondary cash team cashes, so that would have been nice. And I probably wouldn't have lost any tournament money based on that. So, I mean, Day, it would have been good for another 2 holes before your withdrawal there, buddy. But that's the way it goes with him. I think he's fine this week. I think he will be low owned because people do not want to click his name. And to be honest, I'm one of those guys that does not want to click his name. But he has some good results here too. So I think maybe I'll take some of those Rose shares and just put them on Day because really, why not? If I'm not really confident in Rose and I have 10% and I don't have any Day right now, why not just get some Day action? And hope for the best. Sergio's been really good at this tournament. And he has a whole bunch of top tens in his most recent tournaments, even going past what I have here. So Sergio, I think I wish he was priced lower. I don't like starting a lineup with him this week because I like Xander a lot. Runner-up last year is probably a big part of that, but, to go runner-up your first time here is super impressive. I like Xander a lot. His game is just on point in pretty much all aspects right now. Spieth, total fade for me. The guy just isn't there right now. I can't endorse him in good faith. I mean, to be fair to him, he's only had like one bad round each tournament, but that bad round has been like an 80, and if that comes anytime in this tournament, I think just look at these guys around him. I think they're going to be better plays. Tommy, I love this week, but he's 8,800. I kind of wish he was lower in a field like this. He's not. Maybe Molinari and maybe Molinari goes above Tommy and them in price if if the prices were released at a more reasonable time, but they weren't. So Molinari, I love this week, but I think everyone will. So a pivot is Patrick Cantlay. I think Patrick Cantlay will be way lower owned than Molinari based on recency bias, but Cantlay, he's a great play. I don't have any problems with him. He seems super safe. But it's just these guys around him, like Fleetwood, bigger name, sexier name. Molinari, bigger name, sexier name, coming off a win. Webb won here last year. He's going to get more ownership. Spieth probably won't, but Xander's right there too. Cantlay will be overlooked. I like him in tournaments, but that's all I'm really playing this week is tournaments. So maybe maybe it would make sense to move some of my Molinari, which I'm at 30 right now. So maybe move some Molinari to Cantlay, in lineups where I have that extra 100 to spend, get some leverage. I mean, the problem is I'm worried that Molinari might come out here and win again because we saw it last year when he kind of started his heater. He was just on fire, and if you were fading him thinking he was going to regress, well, it didn't really happen. He just kept it up. And that was actually attributable to coaching changes. So there was a real thing there. And he just took a whole bunch of time off here and came back and found something in Mexico. His approach game was fire, and then he came out and had a fire putter on Sunday, and it worked out for him. So, but I'll be back on here. A lot of great results, a lot of miscuts in there too, but those great results, that's why you're playing this week in tournaments. You're not shooting for guys that are going to finish 40th and just make the cut. So it's where I am on Molly. Webb is an interesting case because he won here last year, but he lost strokes on approach here when he won, gained like 10 strokes with his putter. So really, like, I don't know how repeatable that is. I think I might fade Webb this week. Like right now, where am I on Webb? I forget where I am on Webb. I didn't write it down, but right now I don't have very much because I'd rather just play Molinari, who I think is just way better right now as an overall player. Finau's a fade for me. Just doesn't really pop at all. Hideki I love. 4 top 25s here before he missed the cut last year, but he was dealing with some injury stuff last year, so I'm not going to hold that against him. But besides that, whole bunch of strong results recently. The approach game has been so hot. Lost like 10 strokes with his putter last week. So if he turns that around and if he loses 3 strokes with his putter, like he's top 10ing every week. Like just get him a putter, please. Just teach him to putt, please. But yeah, Hideki I love. I have right now. This number's hilarious. I have 80% Hideki right now. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I might leave that there. But yeah, I might. So I also have 40% Adam Scott right now. Adam Scott has not missed the cut this tournament since 2011, which is a long time ago. Holy shit, that is a long time ago. And besides that, has not finished outside the top 40. He has been alternating miscuts with top 10s. That is worrisome, but he loves this track, and he was pretty shit last year too. Like, not even really doing this, the second and the seventh, and still finished 11th. So I'm going to be on Adam Scott this week. Right now I'm at 40%. Might change some of those, like, Hideki and Scott lineups to, like, Cantlay and someone else just to get some, a little diversity. I can't have 80 Hideki. God. Can't have that much invested in Hideki if he just, but that is how it is. Reed is a fade for me. I mean, he's been really consistent, but he hasn't been really top 10ing and hasn't been great here. Kuchar, Pete Dye course. Kuchar loves Pete Dye courses. Kuchar's been great, but personally, I have like, what, 20%? 20%, something like that. Oh, 15%. I might go a little lower than that. I like Kuchar here, but I don't love him. Phil's a fade for me. He does not like this course. I just don't think it fits his game. I will be off Phil completely. Paul Casey and Henrik Stenson. I'm going fast now. My computer's about to die. Paul Casey and Henrik Stenson. I like both of them a lot. Paul Casey, great ball striker, super steady. People are overlooking him because he hasn't played in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but third, 25th, second in his last 4 tournaments. That is great, and you are getting him at 7,900. Right now I'm at 45% Casey. I might up that number. Stenson, really consistent here over time. Won this tournament way back in 09. Found his irons last week, so I will be back on him. My only concern is that he will be very chalky. Right now I am also heavily on Stenson. Um, but I like him a lot. You're getting a class player for a price that, he just isn't normally at. And this happened at the Masters last year where Stenson was just super cheap and people, oh, you played Henrik Stenson in cash. You're such a fish. Well, yeah, because he's a great player at a bad price. Even if his course history isn't elite, like he's gonna probably get it done for you. This course fits his game very well, so I like Stenson a lot. Louis is a fade for me. He's just been god awful. Siwoo, I think, is actually in play as a tournament play. Just his history here is really good. Great long iron player. Really good around the greens. I like Siwoo a lot. This miscut I'm attributing to his putter. So I'm going to be back on Siwoo. Leishman is an interesting case of bad recent course history and pretty strong recent results. But personally, I will play more Poulter right now than Leishman. I have 40% Poulter. Been super consistent at this tournament. Second and 11th the last 2 years. Overall, you look at it, he had four top sixes in a row before a 23rd last week. It's hard not to love Poulter this week. I like him a little more than Leishman, personally, but I think they are both pretty strong plays. Siwoo, I will probably have way less of than those guys, but Siwoo, I think, is he's always a tournament play, but you know he's there. I wish Siwoo's price was cheaper, but it's not. Cam Smith. Cam Smith is a fade for me. Gary Woodland, tough, tough Gary Woodland because, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 miscuts, and then a 28 and an 11th, like, sandwiched in there randomly. Um, After that win last year at the Waste Management, he was pretty terrible for a long stretch of the season until the end, and then he really found it. So, Woodland for me, he's going to be in play. I am a little worried that his results have kind of gotten steadily less impressive, but I will still have a fair amount of Gary Woodland right now. I'm at 30%. My worry is that he's going to be super chalky. Bust here again. These results are going to continue to get worse, and we're going to be, and then I won't have any advantage over the field because although I thought about it, I didn't fade him. I'm really scared about fading Woodland, so I'm not going to do it. But, I might end up going underweight. We'll see. Nor and I will be fading. RCB will be in a ton of my lineups right now. He is in 50% of my lineups. I love RCB this week. I don't care if he's going to be chalky. I will eat that chalk. Billy Horschel, been really consistent lately, and been pretty consistent at this tournament. So I think, if you're a big ownership leverage guy, RCB is going to be chalk as fuck. So you might want to play some Billy Horschel to leverage that. I think RCB is a better player than Billy Horschel, but if you're playing the game theory angle, could Horschel finish better than RCB this week? Absolutely. So, if Horschel's going to be 5% and Rafa's going to be 25%, maybe you want to go somewhere in the middle on that number for both of them and maybe go 15-15. That way you still have some Rafa and you get more Horschel than the field has probably because they're playing Rafa. Maybe play these two guys together. That's an option too. Keegan, terrible course history here except for a 7th last year. He's been really consistent making cuts since last year's U.S. Open, has not missed a single one in that time. So, yeah, Keegan definitely in play. Like, his approach game has been great. His ball striking has been great. With him, it's always the putter. The weird stalking of the ball and the sand traps. I don't know what that's about. But, yeah, like, he does this, like, weird, like, jerky thing. It's strange. But yeah, I mean Keegan's in play. Keegan, RCB, Horschel at this price tag, they're just a little cheaper than we'd be used to seeing them. But like my thing is like if RCB was 8,000 this week, I'd probably still be playing it. If Billy Horschel was 8,000, I probably wouldn't play him as much. And if Keegan was 8,000, I probably wouldn't be touching him. But with 7,400 on these guys, you definitely want to have some of them. Bubba, makes a lot of cuts at this tournament, but somehow like never finishes well, which is strange. But Bubba's been on a solid run. Like Bubba and CH3, both have pretty like rough-ish course history here, but they've been on runs. So like, I don't know how popular Bubba's going to be at this price, but I think he's worth a shot. Now that I look at it, I don't think he's going to be popular, but why not take a snap on a guy with, basically 5 top 30s in his last 6? Like, why not? But CH3's rating out as a great play overall. I'm not going to look at the long-term course history. He kind of bucked that trend for me last year where, you play him until the Masters and then you stop. And he kind of doesn't play as much for the rest of the year, just kind of fades out. Last year, he just kept playing really well all year. So for me, CH3 is going to be definitely in play right now. I'm way too low on CH3. I'm going to need more of him. The same with Glover. Glover sick place 2 years ago here. Glover has 4 top 12s in his last 5 tournaments. His approach numbers rate out really well. So I need more Glover in my lineups. Right now I'm at 15%. I'm going to try to up that number. Furyk, he's actually been playing consistently well recently, but I don't really see it continuing in a field like this. I just think he gets kind of outclassed. If Driver comes into play, I think he's going to be a little bit, over his head there. Kisner I like, but I'm not going to have a ton just because Glover's right there. I do think Kisner's a great pivot, though, if you're looking to do that. ZJ, great results here long term, but just kind of faltered recently. He has not shown much form, so I'm going to be off CJ. Fitz, actually pretty solid form, but I just don't really I don't love what I'm seeing out of Fitz. And those odds, man, he's got some value on him, but I'm not going to be there myself. Benny On, I love just because he's a great ball striker. All we need is the putter not to suck. This whole range is just filled with guys that showed up big last week in Florida, but didn't get the price bumps, up to like maybe where a Hatton, Kisner, Furyk, ZJ, what's his name, Noren are, just because, the pricing came out early. So Benny On, Keith Mitchell, Sung Jae, Matt Wallace, Chesson Hadley. I personally think out of those guys, like On, Wallace are the best 2 golfers. So I will have more of them than the other 2. Sung Jae and Mitchell are just playing really good tee to green golf right now. If Sung Jae could figure out the putter, he'd be top 10ing every week. And instead he's, top 10ing some weeks. Keith Mitchell just fired the last 2 weeks after his win. People kind of expected a letdown. I was one of those people. We were wrong. But, I think, we're still in Florida. I think he can do really well this week too. Hadley, I like Hadley. He was gaining a ton of strokes on approach last week. And this course, I think, sets up pretty similarly in, what it's going to demand out of the players. So I like Hadley again, 11th here, 24th here, 2 out of 4 years. That's better course history than a lot of the, upper tier guys. So I think Hadley's definitely worth a look. And depending on which site you're on, these guys are pretty cheap. Like FanDuel, these guys are cheap. Wallace Hadley are 8,500. Benny On is 8,700, I think. And yeah, if you're on FanDuel, like RCB, Poulter, Stenson, they're in the 9K range. Like those are lock and load plays for me. Glover too. Glover's like 9.2. Kokrak's interesting. He's 9,000 on FanDuel, 6,700 on DraftKings. It's disrespectful for how this guy's been playing, but you look at the course history, it is worrisome. So I will have some Kokrak, but I won't have a ton. With these guys down here, they're down here for a reason, right? Like they're not as good as these guys they're not as good as Ian Poulter. They're not as good as Paul Casey. They're not as good as Henrik, RCB. So with these guys, like I want to be careful not to just buy in too much to recent form when, it could fall apart here. Like this course tears people apart sometimes, so for me, I might have to spread out. Like I have a lot of Benny On right now and I have a lot of Wallace. So I might try to spread out, some of those guys onto Hadley, Some of those shares onto Hadley and Kokrak and Mitchell and M, but we'll see. Maybe the play is to be overweight on Benyon and Matt Wallace, but we'll see. Varner, great course history here actually, but just been pretty bad overall recently. Chris Kirk, great course history here. I think he's like the play on Yahoo where you want a $20 min price guy like Chris Kirk is your man. Besides a withdrawal, he's made the cut here like 6 straight years. So, why not just take that punt? Johnny Vegas, also another guy kind of like Kirk, hasn't, really been amazing here, but he's getting the job done, and he's had 23rd in the 16th and a 10th 3 of his last 4 weeks. So, you can take the risk there. Sung Kang, min price, been making a lot of cuts, and 30th here 2 years ago. You'd take that at min price this week. Actually, you'd take anything at min price this week. So, Sung Kang, probably the wrong color there on him, but those are kind of the guys I'm on this week. If I was playing one and done, I might roll out like honestly, you could roll out a lot of you could roll out like any of these guys and feel okay with it, but you really want to roll out a guy that you think like will win this tournament. This might be like a great Adam Scott in one and done week, just because he's a guy that you're not going to feel bad about burning, and he's been super consistent here. Maybe someone else is the chalk for one and done, and Adam Scott just comes in 10th, and they finish like 50th. You get a little leverage there. But that's kind of all I got for you this week. Best of luck, and you can catch me on Twitter at mandrews93dfs.